Hey there, my name's Danielle. I am the Zodiac Tiller, and thank you so much for clicking on this video. I hope that it's helpful for you because I did a lot with tomatoes this weekend. This year, 2022, was my second growing season of a garden. It was the second time that I grew tomatoes, and I grew them with a purpose to replace spaghetti sauces or replace pizza sauces or replace tomato juice or tomato sauce, something. I wanted to replace what I'm buying at the store tomato-wise. I learned a very valuable lesson that my 9 tomato plants. Yeah, that is not enough tomato plants in order to replace how much tomato sauce products I purchased at the store. It did not work. I did do a great job this year though. I, 1, learned my lesson about tomato plants. 2, I made my first batch of salsa. 3, I froze tomatoes for the first time. I saved tomatoes to process at a later date rather than picking them off of the plant and using them in something right away. I had an abundance, or it really wasn't an abundance, it was a small amount, but I had the forethought that I wanted to have an abundance so that I could do things with it and process with it and maybe can something with it. I did not have that much. I had about 1 gallon-sized bag of frozen tomatoes. Again, it's a lesson. I strongly recommend that if you want to do something, do it. Do it. Jump off the cliff, dive deep into whatever it is you want to do and do it. Or if you just want to stick your toe in and only do 1%, hey, that's better than nothing. And this weekend, I wanted to jump in on my tomatoes. There was no sticking my toe in. My tomatoes were frozen in a Ziploc bag. I wanted to do something with them, so I knew that was going to mean that whole harvest that I had from this year was all going to be thawed and needed to be used at the same time. So I wanted to make sure that what I was creating out of these tomatoes is using every element of the tomato. I didn't want any of it to go to waste. I spent my time growing these tomatoes, saving these tomatoes. Now I wanted to make sure I spent my time with being thankful and grateful for what I'm able to produce with these tomatoes. So I used all the elements of the tomato. I was able to use the juice, the peels, and the meat, the actual tomato. What I did with these tomatoes, they were frozen in the freezer. I first took them out. I put them in a glass baking dish. Nothing fancy. Same thing that I bake cakes in. I let those frozen tomatoes sit in the glass dish, sit in my oven all of Saturday. It took several hours for them to thaw. I ended up pulling them out because I was going to try to cook something, and I put them on the dining room table, let them thaw there. And I was really pleased to see that the frozen tomatoes, once they're fully thawed, they really do give you a lot of their own juice just from that thaw. I then chose to pick the skins, it's true, y'all. If you freeze your tomatoes, once they thaw, the key is thaw. They've got to be thawed all the way through. Otherwise, the skin does not come off quite as easily. I learned that this weekend. You can just pull those skins and they just come right off of the tomatoes. So I pulled all the skins off, put those in a separate bowl, took the meat of the took the meat of the tomato, put those in a separate bowl, and then I have a very fine strainer. I put that over another bowl and I strained the tomato juice through the strainer, so I had pure tomato juice down in the bottom. I got clever with it because tomato juice, according to Google, doesn't last as long as I thought it would last. Maybe if I had canned it, it would, but it wasn't that much tomato juice that I wanted to spend the time canning anything. So I ended up using one of my ice trays and I filled it with the tomato juice and made tomato juice cubes. I'm super excited about it. I feel like it's a big win for myself. There's a beautiful cardinal. I love a good cardinal. Okay, so where was I? I strained the tomato juice into a bowl. I froze them in the ice trays. So I actually had to do 2 batches. I only wanted to use one ice tray, not both of my ice trays. So they froze really well. I was really happy. They popped right out. I put them in a Ziploc freezer bag. I got them back in the freezer. I filled the ice tray again with the next round. It made me a perfect 2 trays. So that's 24 cubes of tomato juice. I'm super excited. I thought it was a great idea and it worked out. So the next thing that I did, I wanted to make some pizza sauce. So I took those tomato bowl, and by the time I was ready to use it, I actually needed to strain it even more to get some more of that juice out, so it was really beneficial. Put it in a sauce pot, left it on the stove. Now, my recipe for this was kind of just throwing things in and seeing what worked right. I looked at a lot of recipes online, saw that they primarily consist of oil, garlic, oregano, and basil. So I used what I had. I made it taste good. I think it is awesome. I did leave the seeds in, and I don't have a food mill. So I left the seeds in, I let it cook, I added my spices, I let it keep cooking. It reduced down really perfectly to a great tomato sauce consistency, but it was chunky. And when I tasted it, it tasted good, but it was like crunching on tomato seeds. And I didn't think it would be a big deal, but it was. I did not like crunching those tomato seeds. So I then realized if I used my strainer over a bowl and a wooden spoon, I can push the tomato sauce through the strainer and hopefully keep those seeds up. It was a lot of work. I sat and watched a movie with my daughter while I was doing it, but it worked. I didn't have to have a food mill, and I was really happy. Now, I will get me a food mill. That is definitely something I'm going to want to have it less labor intensive. Finally, The tomato skins, remember I pulled those off the first thing and put them in a bowl and set them to the side? Well, what did I do with them? I baked those puppies on a silicone mat on top of a cookie sheet in my oven on the lowest temperature possible, which is 200. Now, our rental home, our stove is really wonky and loves to burn things. So behold, half my tomato skins burned. I would not recommend, I feel like most people know this, but I don't know this. I would not recommend doing 2 trays, 1 tray on the center rack and 1 tray on the bottom rack. That bottom rack tray really, it burned really fast. So I only got about half, maybe even less than half, probably like 40% of my tomato skins baked in the oven at 200 degrees, dried perfectly. I did check them consistently to make sure that the rest of them didn't keep burning. They dried out great, and then I saved them on a plate overnight, and the next day on Sunday, which is today, I blended them. Now, here's the next thing. I have a food processor, I have a mortar and pestle, and I have a smoothie blender. I had no idea how I was going to make powder and if it was even going to work, but I had to try. I had to know what happens. So the mortar and pestle was just that was not the ideal thing to go for myself. So I didn't even try that. I first tried my food processor. Yep. Food processor got it small, but only got it so small. And I want it to be a powder. So I only have the smoothie blender left. I gave that a try. Yay! The smoothie blender actually got it pretty fine. That was really loud. I was really surprised. I was looking at the blades on it and I didn't think it was going to work at all, but I'm really happy that I went ahead and gave it a shot because it definitely worked out. So that's it, y'all. I made tomato powder, pizza sauce, and tomato juice. I'm going to probably use the tomato juice in my chili this week because that's on my meal plan, and I'm going to use that pizza sauce in homemade pizza this week. That's in my meal plan. I recommend you follow me on Instagram if you don't already. That way you can see these amazing things that I'm making. I also share a little bit of how I'm doing and what I'm doing along the way, and a lot more of my real life is over on my Instagram. I mean, this is my real life. That didn't make any sense. Just maybe follow me. I hope that you did something this weekend that you want to learn. I don't have anybody that I can call and ask any questions to. I wasn't taught how to cook from my mom. I wasn't taught how to cook from my grandmother. I don't have any family to call and say, hey, I'm trying to learn how people lived 100 years ago. Got any advice? Nope, I don't have anything like that. So I'm sharing with you along the way every little nook and cranny of information that I am learning. I hope that my success with tomatoes might encourage you to maybe try to be successful in something you want to do. I thank you so much for watching. I am not sure what else is in my freezer that I need to process, but I know there's green beans in there and they don't need to do anything, so I'm just going to cook them in a meal, and I'm actually thinking about cooking them this Thanksgiving. I've got a lot of work to do outside here. It's pretty chilly in South Carolina. I've got a lot of things coming up in my life. I can't wait to share them with you. But overall, I hope that you are blessed. It's really stressful times. It's really hard just going through the day-to-day every day for myself, and I know that I am not alone. But I know that God's got me, and I know that He'll have you too if you just lean on Him like I do. Thank you so much, everyone. I will be seeing you real soon.